The charity gala was ending when I played the recording. 200 people in black tie, champagne glasses raised, watching my husband accept an award for community leadership. His smile was perfect. His speech about family values and integrity was flawless. The audience loved him. Then I pressed play on the projector remote I'd hidden in my purse. The screens behind him flickered. His acceptance speech disappeared, replaced by his voice, younger, crueler, surrounded by laughter. She's perfect for the bet. Divorced, desperate, that look in her eyes like she's trying to prove she's still worth something. The ballroom went silent. Declan's face drained of color as his own voice continued. Give me 6 months. I'll have her in love, married, and completely convinced I'm her second chance at happiness. I watched from the back of the room as his world imploded in real time, the same way mine had 3 months ago when his mother told me the truth about our marriage. The truth about the bet they'd made before our wedding. 18 months earlier, I'd believed in second chances. I was 36, divorced for 2 years, living in an apartment in Portland that smelled like someone else's cooking and my own careful rebuilding. The kind of life you construct when you're trying to prove you can be whole without someone else completing you. My ex-husband had left me for his assistant, cliché devastating, the kind of wound that heals crooked. I'd spent 2 years in therapy learning that his infidelity wasn't about my worth. Learning to eat dinner alone without feeling like failure. Learning to stop flinching when people asked if I was seeing anyone. I wasn't. Not until I met Declan. The coffee shop was crowded that October morning. He offered to share his table, his smile easy and warm, the kind that made you feel seen rather than studied. We talked for an hour. He was a consultant. I worked in fundraising for non-profits. He made me laugh. I made him lean in closer to hear better. When he asked for my number, I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to give it, because I did, desperately, and that terrified me. I won't bite, he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Promise. Just dinner. Public place. You can leave any time. I gave him my number. 3 dates became 3 weeks became 3 months. Declan was everything my ex wasn't, attentive, present, genuinely interested in my work, my thoughts, my recovery from a marriage that had nearly erased me. He remembered small things. Brought me books he thought I'd love. Texted good morning without expecting immediate responses. Made space for my healing without making it the center of our relationship. My best friend Piper was less enchanted. He's too perfect, she said over drinks after I'd gushed about our 4th month together. Nobody's that attentive. That focused. That what? That calculated. She stirred her martini, not looking at me. I can't explain it. Something about the way he watches you. Like he's checking boxes. I'd laughed it off. Told her she was being paranoid. That not all men were disasters waiting to happen. But I remembered the moment because Piper was rarely wrong about people. And because 3 months later, I'd wish I'd listened. By December, Declan was talking about meeting his mother. We were having dinner at his place, a townhouse in northwest Portland decorated with the kind of expensive minimalism that suggested either great taste or an interior designer. I was betting on the latter. She already adores you, he said, refilling my wine glass. I've told her so much about you. You've told your mother about me? I tried to keep my voice light, but something tightened in my chest. What did you say? That you're brilliant. That you're rebuilding your life with so much grace. That I'm lucky to have found you. He leaned across the table, taking my hand. That you might be the one. The words should have been romantic. Should have made me glow with that dizzy feeling of being chosen, being seen, being enough. Instead, I felt something I couldn't name. Like being on stage with lights too bright, performing a role I hadn't auditioned for. The one. I pulled my hand back gently, reaching for my wine. That's a lot of pressure. Good pressure. His smile never wavered. The kind that makes you rise to meet it. I drank my wine and said nothing, filing away that phrase for later examination. Rise to meet it. Like I was a challenge. A test. Something to be conquered rather than loved. When do I meet her? I asked instead. Next week. Sunday brunch. She's hosting at her place in Lake Oswego. He stood, moving to clear plates. Fair warning, she's intense. Very protective. But she'll love you. I told her you might be the one. There it was again. That phrase. That certainty. Like he'd already decided who I was and who we'd be, and my job was simply to agree. I left his place that night with a knot in my stomach I couldn't untangle. Texted Piper from my car, meeting his mom next week. Why am I terrified? Her response came immediately, because your gut is smarter than your heart. Trust it. But I didn't trust it. Couldn't afford to. Because trusting my gut meant acknowledging that something was wrong with the first relationship since my divorce that had felt right. Meant admitting that maybe Piper was correct and Declan's perfection was performance. Meant accepting that I might be falling for another man who saw me as a role to play rather than a person to love. So I ignored the knot. Ignored Piper's warning. Ignored my own instinct screaming that men who call you the one 6 months in are usually trying to lock you down before you notice the cracks. I went to that brunch. I met his mother. And I learned too late that sometimes your gut knows things your heart refuses to see. Things like the fact that the man you're falling for made a bet he could make you fall first. Things like the fact that his mother was in on it from the beginning. Things like the fact that love, when weaponized, looks exactly like the real thing until the moment it destroys you. Vivian's house was a statement disguised as a home. Lake Oswego, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, furniture that looked expensive enough to require insurance. The kind of wealth that whispered rather than shouted, which somehow made it more intimidating. Declan's mother answered the door in cashmere and pearls, her smile practiced to perfection. 60-something but ageless in the way money makes possible. Her handshake was firm. Her eyes assessed me like I was art she might not purchase. You must be the famous mystery woman. Her voice was warm honey with something sharper underneath. Declan's been absolutely secretive. I was beginning to think you were imaginary. Just private, I said, matching her smile. It's nice to finally meet you. Vivian. Please, never Mrs. Hartley. That makes me sound ancient. She ushered us into a dining room where brunch was laid out like a magazine spread. I hope you're hungry. I had my chef prepare entirely too much. Your chef. Casual. A reminder of the world I was entering. Brunch was a performance. Vivian asked questions that felt like interviews disguised as interest. My work, my background, my divorce, mentioned with sympathy so sharp it drew blood. Declan mentioned you'd been married before. That must have been difficult. She passed me mimosa with a look of studied concern. Some men just don't know how to appreciate what they have. Some don't, I agreed carefully. But you're stronger for it, I'm sure. Divorce builds character. She smiled. Though I hope you're not one of those women who become cynical. Declan deserves someone who still believes in love. The comment landed like a test. I felt Declan's hand find mine under the table, squeezing gently. Supportive or warning? I believe in it, I said. Just more carefully now. Careful is good. Vivian's smile sharpened. though not too careful. You don't want to miss opportunities by overthinking. The rest of brunch continued that way, compliments wrapped in corrections, warmth laced with judgment. She praised my dress while suggesting different colors would suit me better. Admired my work while mentioning Declan's exes had more ambitious careers. Asked about my family with concern that felt like investigation. By the time we left, my face hurt from smiling. She loved you, Declan said in the car, his hand on my knee. I could tell. Could you? I stared out the window at houses I'd never afford. She seemed evaluating. That's just her way. She's protective. He glanced over. You passed with flying colors. Passed. Like I'd taken an exam I hadn't known I was sitting for. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up to get water and found my phone glowing with a text from an unknown number. Lovely to meet you today. Let's hope you last longer than the others. V. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. Last longer. Like I was competing in something. Like there were others who'd failed some invisible test. I opened Instagram, searched Declan's tagged photos from years back. Found them, the others. A parade of beautiful women at charity events, on vacation, at family dinners in that same Lake Oswego dining room. All roughly my age. All divorced or recently single. All looking at Declan like he was their second chance. All gone now. I counted 5 in the past 3 years. Different faces, same expression, hope mixed with something that looked like desperation disguised as love. Piper's voice in my head, nobody's that attentive. That calculated. I closed Instagram. Turned off my phone. Told myself I was being paranoid. But I saved Vivian's text just in case. He proposed on a Thursday in March. We'd been together 8 months. Long enough to feel serious, short enough to still feel like whirlwind romance. He took me to the Japanese garden, spring blooms making everything look like a promise. The ring was perfect. The proposal was perfect. His words were perfect, about second chances and building futures and how I taught him what real love looked like. I said yes because saying no felt impossible. Because I wanted the story he was selling. Because at 36, after a failed marriage, turning down a man who seemed to adore you felt like giving up. But my hand shook when he slid on the ring. The wedding planning was a blur of Vivian's opinions disguised as suggestions. The venue she preferred. The florist she knew. The photographer who'd captured all the important family events. You don't mind, do you? Declan asked after another planning session where my ideas had been gently redirected. Mom's just excited. She's wanted this for me for so long. Wanted what? I wanted to ask. A wedding? Or a daughter-in-law who'd pass her tests? Piper was my maid of honor because refusing would have ended our friendship. She showed up to dress fittings and smiled tightly through Vivian's passive-aggressive comments about the bridesmaid dresses I'd chosen. You can still back out, she whispered during my final fitting. Nobody's forcing you to do this. I love him, I said automatically. Do you? Or do you love who he lets you think he is? I didn't answer because I didn't know. The wedding was in June. 200 guests, most of them Vivian's friends and Declan's business associates. My side of the church was sparse, small family, close friends, the visual evidence of a life I'd rebuilt carefully after divorce. His side was packed. Impressive. A reminder of what I was marrying into. Everything was perfect until the reception. Declan's groomsman, a college friend named Trevor, had too much champagne during cocktail hour. He grabbed the microphone during toasts, his face flushed, his words slurring just enough to be dangerous. To Declan, Trevor announced, who finally figured out the trick. Guess you won the bet after all, brother. Laughter rippled through the groomsmen's table. Nervous. Inside joke energy. Declan's face went rigid. Vivian's smile tightened. What bet? Someone called out. Trevor laughed. Ancient history. College stuff. Nothing important. But Vivian stood, raising her own glass, redirecting attention with practiced ease. What Trevor means to toast is that Declan gambled on love and won. Her eyes found mine across the room. After all, marriage is always a gamble, isn't it? Love built on risk. Applause. Agreement. The moment passed. But I felt it, the shift. The crack. The thing that didn't fit. Later, during our first dance, I asked Declan what Trevor meant. College thing. Stupid inside joke about dating. He spun me, his hand tight on my waist. Don't let it bother you. What was the bet? Nothing important. Trevor's an idiot when he drinks. He pulled me closer. This is our day. Don't let him ruin it. So I didn't push. Didn't question. Did what I'd been trained to do, smiled, danced, pretended everything was perfect. But that night, alone in our hotel room while Declan showered, I googled Trevor and Declan and college. Found nothing. But found something else, an old Facebook photo from 3 years ago. Declan and Trevor and 2 other men, arms around each other, caption reading, "The Bet Boys Ride Again." Posted by Trevor. Tagged by Declan. The Bet Boys. I stared at the photo until Declan came out of the bathroom, and I closed my phone quickly, heart hammering. Everything okay? He asked. Perfect, I lied. And that was the night I started paying attention to all the small ways my marriage didn't fit together. 6 months into marriage, the gaslighting started small. Keys I'd left on the counter that Declan swore I'd put in my purse. Conversations he claimed we'd had that I had no memory of. Plans that changed without warning, with him insisting I'd agreed. You're stressed, he'd say gently. Work's been intense. You're forgetting things. I started documenting. Writing down conversations, taking photos of where I left things, marking my calendar obsessively. Trying to prove to myself I wasn't losing my grip on reality. Vivian's visits increased. She dropped by unannounced, always with gifts, expensive wine, books she thought I'd enjoy, cashmere scarves in colors that looked better on her. She'd stay for hours, making subtle observations about the house, my cooking, my career choices. Nothing overtly cruel. Just consistent questioning disguised as interest. Still working at that little non-profit? She'd ask. Declan mentioned you've been thinking about something more substantial. I hadn't been. But after enough suggestions, I started doubting my own choices. Your ex-husband, she said one afternoon while Declan was at work, did he also make you feel like you needed to prove yourself constantly? Or is that something you learned? The question landed like a slap disguised as concern. I don't feel like I need to prove anything. Of course not. Her smile was sympathetic. I just worry Declan's exes left him with certain expectations. High achiever types. Very ambitious. Very. She paused. Memorable. What happened to them? Oh, they moved on. Better opportunities. You know how it is with career women, always chasing the next thing. She sipped her tea. But you're different. You value stability. That's refreshing. Refreshing. Another word that felt like an insult wrapped in praise. That night, I told Declan his mother's visits were becoming overwhelming. She's just trying to bond, he said, not looking up from his laptop. You're reading too much into it. She told me I'm different from your exes because I value stability. You are different. He closed the laptop, his face softening. That's why I married you. Why did you break up with them? Who? Your exes. The 5 women I found on Instagram from the past 3 years. His jaw tightened. Brief. Barely noticeable. Ancient history. Why does it matter? Because your mother keeps mentioning them. Because I keep wondering what happened to make 5 relationships end in 3 years. They ended because they weren't you. He stood, walking over, framing my face with his hands. You're overthinking. You do that when you're anxious. Maybe you should talk to someone. Get back in therapy. The suggestion felt like diagnosis. Like proof I was the problem. I'm not anxious. I'm asking questions. Questions that sound like accusations. His voice stayed gentle, which somehow made it worse. I love you. I married you. Why isn't that enough? Because love shouldn't require you to stop trusting your own perceptions. But I didn't say that. Just apologized for being difficult and let him hold me while my mind raced through everything that didn't fit. The following week, I came home early from work and heard voices in Declan's study. His door was cracked, laptop open, video call in progress. I paused in the hallway. Listened. She still doesn't know. Declan's voice, low and amused. Another voice, male, tinny through speakers. When are you going to tell her? Why would I tell her? She's happy. Ignorance is bliss. Laughter. Multiple voices. The Bet Boys, I realized. The college friends. I stood frozen in my own hallway, heart hammering, trying to decide whether to confront or retreat. Declan spoke again. Besides, if she knew the truth about how this started. I pushed the door open. 4 faces on his screen, Trevor and 3 others. All frozen mid-laugh. Declan spun around, his expression cycling through surprise, calculation, recovery. Babe, you're home early. He closed the laptop quickly. Work thing. Boring conference call. What doesn't she know? Nothing. Just guy talk. Complaining about married life. His smile was easy. Too easy. You know how it is. I don't, actually. Explain it to me. Later. I need to finish this call. Finish it now. I'll wait. We stared at each other. Some line crossed. Some mask slipping. Fine. He stood. They were joking about how I'm domesticated now. How marriage changes you. Trevor was being an ass about it. That's all. What truth were you talking about? About how this started. How we started. Meeting at a coffee shop. They think it's corny. I wanted to believe him. Tried to force my brain to accept his explanation. But my body knew. That tightness in my chest. That voice screaming this is wrong. I'm going for a walk, I said. Now? It's almost dinner. Now. I grabbed my coat and left, my phone already pulling up everything I could find about Declan, Trevor, college, bets, anything that would explain the feeling that my entire marriage was a script I hadn't been given. I found nothing. But I kept looking. Because somewhere between the perfect proposal and the gaslighting and Vivian's pointed comments and that overheard conversation, I'd stopped being Declan's wife and started being his project. His bet. His conquest. I just didn't have proof yet. That would come 3 weeks later in a garden, from the last person I expected to deliver the truth. His mother. The woman who'd helped orchestrate everything from the beginning. Vivian called on a Wednesday asking me to lunch. Not asking, summoning. Her voice on the phone had that quality of assumed compliance. We'd meet at her club. 1 o'clock. Dress appropriately. I almost said no. Then curiosity won over self-preservation. The country club restaurant overlooked manicured gardens, tables filled with women in expensive athleisure discussing fundraisers and tennis tournaments. Vivian was already seated, wine ordered, her expression unreadable. Thank you for coming. She gestured to the chair across from her. We need to talk. Privately. About what? About the bet my son made before your wedding. The words hung between us like smoke. I sat down carefully, my hands steady despite my heart trying to escape my chest. I don't understand. Yes, you do. Vivian sipped her wine. You've been suspicious for months. The overheard conversations. Trevor's comment at the reception. The way Declan watches you like an experiment he's monitoring. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm dying. She said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe 8. And before I go, I need to end something I helped start. The garden outside blurred. I gripped the table edge. Declan made a bet with his college friends 3 years ago, Vivian continued. $5,000. The challenge was to make a divorced woman in her 30s fall in love with him, marry him, and never suspect it was staged. My throat closed. You're lying. I wish I was. She pulled out her phone, opened a video file, slid it across the table. Watch. I pressed play with hands that had gone numb. Declan's face filled the screen. Younger, drunk, surrounded by Trevor and the others at what looked like a bachelor party. Said women like her are easy to win and hard to get rid of. Laughter. Desperate for validation. Willing to ignore red flags because they're so grateful someone chose them again. Trevor's voice. What's the timeline? 6 months to engagement. Year to wedding. Then I collect. Declan grinned at the camera. Easy money. Just gotta make her feel special enough to ignore how calculated it all is. More laughter. The video ended. I sat frozen, Vivian's wine-blurred face across from me, the sounds of wealthy women discussing nothing while my marriage dissolved in my hands. Why? My voice came out shattered. Why would you help him do this? Because I wanted you to see who he really is. Vivian leaned forward. I'm his mother. I know what he's capable of. His father was the same, charming, manipulative, destroyed 3 marriages before dying alone. I watched Declan become exactly like him. I tried to stop it. But he's his father's son. So you helped him destroy me too. What? Teach him a lesson. To teach you one. Her eyes were sharp despite the cancer eating her from inside. Women like us, second chance women, we're so desperate to believe in redemption that we ignore every sign something's wrong. I wanted someone to finally see through him. Someone smart enough to fight back. You used me. I gave you evidence. She gestured to the phone. What you do with it is your choice. You can ignore it, play the perfect wife, let him win. Or you can destroy him the way he tried to destroy you. I stared at this dying woman who'd orchestrated my humiliation to expose her son's cruelty and felt something shift inside me. Not breaking, crystallizing. Rage becoming clarity. There's more, Vivian said. Much more. Recordings. Messages. Financial transfers showing he's been taking money from your joint accounts. He's planned his exit strategy, when you're too attached to leave but broken enough not to fight back. She pulled out a flash drive. Set it on the table between us like an offering or a weapon. Everything's on here. 3 years of evidence. His laptop password. Bank account information. Proof of every calculated move he's made. Why give this to me? Because I'm dying anyway. He can't hurt me, but he can hurt you. She pushed the flash drive closer. Unless you hurt him first. I took the drive with hands that had stopped shaking. Clarity replacing chaos. What do you get out of this? Peace. Vivian's smile was sad. The knowledge that I stopped him before he did this to someone else. Before another woman wasted years on a man who sees love as a game he plays to win. I left that lunch with evidence, rage, and a plan beginning to form. The laptop password worked. I waited until Declan was on a business trip, 3 days in Seattle, enough time to dig through every file, every hidden folder, every piece of his carefully constructed deception. The folder was labeled Project Second Chance. Inside were spreadsheets tracking my behavior, responses, emotional states. Notes on what worked to manipulate me. Strategies for gaslighting. Exit timelines. And videos. Dozens of them. I clicked on one dated 6 months before we met. Declan and his friends. Planning. The key is finding someone recently divorced. Still emotionally raw. Wants to prove the divorce wasn't her fault by making the next relationship work. Trevor, where do you find them? Therapy waiting rooms. Divorce support groups. Coffee shops near counseling centers. Declan laughed. They practically advertise their vulnerability. Another video, dated 2 weeks after we met. She's perfect. Checks every box. Smart enough to be interesting, damaged enough to be grateful. I give it 4 months to engagement. He'd won his bet. I'd played exactly the part he'd written for me. I copied everything. Backed it up 3 different ways. Then I started planning. Not revenge, justice. Surgical. Precise. The kind that would destroy him exactly the way he'd tried to destroy me. I called Piper. You were right. About everything. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Be ready. I'm going to need your help burning his life down. The charity gala was Declan's event. His moment. 200 people watching him accept an award for community leadership, while I smiled beside him like the perfect wife. I'd spent 3 months preparing. Getting lawyers involved. Documenting everything. Building a case so airtight he couldn't manipulate his way out. And I'd done it while playing the devoted wife. Smiling at his lies. Letting him think he'd won. The recording was my opening move. When his voice filled that ballroom, admitting the bet, mocking me, laughing about how easy I'd been to manipulate, I watched his world implode in real time. People gasped. Phones came out. The recording kept playing, more clips, more evidence, 3 years of calculated cruelty on display for everyone who'd congratulated us at our wedding. Declan tried to shut it down. Rushed to the AV booth. But I'd locked him out of the controls. The recording ended with Vivian's voice. This is my son. This is what he does. And this is why I'm leaving everything to the woman he tried to destroy, so she can rebuild what he broke. The room erupted. Declan found me at the back, his face destroyed by rage and humiliation. You had no right. I had every right. My voice was steady, calm. You made a bet you could break me. You lost. Security escorted him out while cameras captured everything. By morning it would be everywhere, social media, news outlets, the permanent record of his destruction. I filed for divorce that week. Vivian died 3 days later, her last act transferring her entire estate to me with a note. He broke you to prove power. You broke him to prove truth. Now build yourself free. The settlement took 6 months. I got everything, the house, the accounts, half his business. He'd hidden money, but my forensic accountant found it all. His company collapsed. Friends abandoned him. The bet boys scattered like roaches when lights turned on. Trevor called once, voice shaking. He's threatening to sue. Says you destroyed him. He destroyed himself, I said. I just made sure everyone could see it. A year later, I stood in the same Japanese garden where Declan had proposed. Spring blooms made promises the world couldn't keep, but I was done believing in promises. I believed in evidence now. In clarity. In women like me who'd been used as experiments in cruelty and decided to become case studies in survival instead. Piper met me there, carrying coffee and the kind of friendship that had survived my worst decisions. How are you? She asked. Free. I sipped the coffee. Finally free. Any regrets? I thought about the question. About the year of marriage that had been a lie. About the humiliation. About standing in that ballroom watching Declan's face crumble as his own words destroyed him. No. He taught me something important. What? That second chances aren't about finding someone to complete you. They're about becoming whole enough that nobody can use your broken pieces as weapons. We walked through the gardens in comfortable silence, two women who'd survived different versions of love that looked real until it revealed itself as performance. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Thank you. Your story gave me the courage to leave. Anonymous. I'd been getting those messages for months. Women who'd seen the recordings, recognized their own relationships, found strength in watching someone fight back. Declan had made a bet he could break me. Instead, I'd become the cautionary tale that warned other women to trust their gut when charming men seemed too perfect. That was worth more than any marriage built on lies. I deleted the message and kept walking, spring light filtering through trees, the future unwritten and entirely mine. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's freedom. And making sure he sees you walking away smiling. He gambled on breaking me. I bet on becoming unbreakable. I won.